Hey there guys, and welcome back. On this week's show, a wall-mounted herb garden. Well, in our neighborhood we have rabbits. They are everywhere. So if you're planting an herb garden, you might as well put up a big sign that says free buffet, because they will eat your herbs. With that being said, my wife wanted to plant some, so we thought we would make a wall herb garden, and it all starts out with a pallet. There are many store locations that will offer free pallets, and what we're going to do first is we're going to disassemble this and then run our boards through the planer to smooth them out and give them a much nicer appearance and bring them down to a uniform thickness. Just remember, guys, before you run this through any planer, get the nails out of it. If you have a metal detector, you can use it. If not, just be careful and make sure that you're double checking each board that there's no nails left in it. Once it's all planed down, you end up with an assortment of 1/2 inch thick boards, all different lengths, all different widths. We want to pick 2 boards, joint one edge and rip it to a width of 5 inches and a length of 36 inches. So those last 2 pieces that we cut are going to be the uprights of our planter or our rack. And I don't want them to just be plain at the top and the bottom, so I'm going to use a piece of scrap MDF cut the same width as our upright boards, and I'm going to make a template. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to mark a line 2 inches in from one edge. And I'm also going to mark a line 3 inches down from the top. Now, this is one of the things that makes this project so easy, is that you can use whatever you have around your shop. In this case, I'm using a can of wax to mark out some circles here that coincide with the marks that we just laid out on our MDF. So you can see we will just join these together. And there is our profile. I'm not sure how well that's showing. There you go. Hopefully you can see that a bit better. The glare from the lights really interferes with that. So I'm going to take this over to the scroll saw, cut it out, and then we'll come back and mark out our sideboards. And with our template cut out, we're simply going to mark the ends of our boards. Well, even though you have those nice profiles marked, don't cut them yet, because we want to be working with square edges and square stock. We need to make some dados for our shelves that are going to hold our pots. And for that, I've installed a dado blade. I've set it to a 1/2 inch thickness. And the first one that we're going to do is approximately 10 inches down from the top of our planter rack. And we're going to be cutting these dados at a 15-degree angle. Our next 1/2 inch dado will be approximately 6 inches up from the bottom. And these dados are going to be 1/4 inch deep, by the way. I think I neglected to mention that in the last clip. And the last one will be centered pretty much between the 2 that we've just done. And now just repeat the process on your opposite board. Well, at this point, you should want something that looks like this. You don't want to be like some bonehead, and I won't mention any names, but somebody cut one wrong, and it was cut in the exact same... It was cut in the exact same direction as the first one I cut. In other words, I did not make a left and a right piece, I made two right pieces. So I ended up having to recut another board, but that's okay. We had plenty of stock from the skids, so no harm, no foul. I'm gonna try to use that piece on the shelves. Before we get to the shelves though, what we want to do now is check our profiles to make sure that they're marked correctly, cut them out, and then we'll move on to the next step. Well, I've taken a bunch of the 1/2-inch thick pallet wood and I have cut 6 pieces that are 1.5 inches wide and they are 23 inches long. And what I'm going to do is at the back of each one of our uprights, starting with just the first one, I'm going to glue these in about 1 inch in from the back of our upright. It's not an exact science, it doesn't have to be perfect, but we'll just glue in 3 of those into each one of our dados. So what I've done is I've taken 3 of these pieces, 23 inches long, 1.5 inches wide, and just on the front edges, I've put a slight round over. And all I'm going to do is, just like I glued these ones in, I'm going to glue these in place, but we're going to have about 1/4 inch overhang on the front end of our piece. All right, and we'll glue our other ones in place and then I'll come back and see you. And now that we have that in place, we'll apply glue to the other end of our shelf strips and we will glue our other upright in place. Once we get that done, we're going to clamp it up and let it dry up. Well, at this point, we want to take a measurement between our 2 uprights, and we are at 22 9/16. So we're going to get some more of the pallet wood, the 1/2 inch. I'm going to cut a piece that is 5 inches wide, and it'll be our 22 9/16 long. And what I've done with our board after I've cut it to length is I've split it down the middle by cutting it at 45 degrees because we're going to hang this with a French cleat. So what we're going to do now is this piece that will mount onto our herb rack, we will glue it in place and clamp it together, and then we can add our front rails. So for our front keepers, I guess we'll call it, what I've done is cut some strips. They're 23.5 inches long. They are 1 inch wide out of our 1/2 inch stock and 2.5 inches up from the bottom edge of our shelf. We're just going to mount these surface on the front and that will retain the pots in place on the shelves. And all that's left to do now is install it. there you have it. A pallet wall hanging herb garden, if you will. Guys, this project is dead simple. There's no plans, there's no pattern. It started off in my mind, and then from my mind it turned into this, and then from this, with a little mucking around, it turned into this. Now, there were a few issues along the way, one of them being the dados being cut the wrong way. That's just myself not paying attention. It happens. It happens to the best of us. Mistakes happen. You just correct them and move on. You'll learn from it and move on. The best part about this project is it was 100% free. It cost me nothing. All of the material, of course, was pallet wood, and pallet wood that was free. All it took was a little bit of planing and then cutting it to the dimensions I want, jointing it and that sort of thing, gluing it together. Free project, guys. How can you go wrong with that? I did, however, just to be full disclosure here, or to give full disclosure, in every single one of the shelves and every single one of the joints, I did fire some 1-inch brad nails with my air nailer, just to give it a little bit of extra strength. That's the only thing that was not shown here on the show. Now, what about the French cleat? As long as you angle and install the pieces correctly, just like this, with the piece on the wall facing the right way and the piece on the project facing the right way, it's a fantastic setup, because all you need to do is screw that cleat level to the wall, and then your project just hangs there. If you ever need to take it down for maintenance or whatever, it doesn't matter. If you ever need to take it down for anything whatsoever, you just lift it off. It's not that difficult. Even for storage in the winter, leave the cleat on the wall and take the project off. If the cleat ever rots because it's exposed to the winter, make a new cleat. It's not that hard. Guys, I hope you've enjoyed today's project. It sort of came out of necessity because we didn't want to end up feeding the neighborhood rabbits. Instead, we want to feed the neighborhood pigs. So this project came out of necessity, but I think it turned out rather well. The fact that it was free and scrap wood is just a bonus. Don't get too hung up on knot holes and that sort of thing with it. It's a pallet wood project. It's made to be outside. It is not a fine woodworking piece of furniture. It's an outdoor accent, and I think it looks great just the way it is. Guys, I want to thank you so much for tuning in this week. If you haven't already, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Click the bell so that you don't miss the notifications of future episodes of the show. I hope you're going to try this one for yourself. I hope you're going to get your own herb garden going, and I also hope that you're going to join me again next week when I bring you yet another woodworking video.